In certain parts of Virginia, we really haven't seen this much rain for decades. Not only did it rain, throughout the day, during the whole daytime period, but in some cases it rained day after day after day. And what we find, it really increases the incidence of certain diseases on your plants, including, root rot, leaves that die back, maybe a leaf spot, and other problems. Even sometimes flowers will die back in all of this rain. One of the things that you can always do that really helps prevent some disease problems is keep your garden clean. Remove all the old foliage from the year before, because some of that older foliage has spores which during, warm time periods or during rain splash back on your plant. The plant right here is a dogwood tree. And if you look, this is our native flowering dogwood, and you can see some of the leaf damage that has occurred on this plant. A lot of these diseases start in the spring. But another thing you might consider is plant one of the new disease-resistant dogwoods that you see right behind me. It blooms later, and there's very little leaf damage on this tree. One of the things that we find in many of our gardens, and we may not realize it, that our soil is so compacted, it's denser than concrete. And that's because the heavy clay soils, after us walking on them, driving on them, or heavy equipment, just pack them down tighter and tighter and tighter. And the water never really drains out. Now, during drought periods, which we've had over many years, we don't notice the problem that happens when we get inundated with rain, because we get standing water. The roots cannot absorb the water or nutrients because there is no air left. Your roots have to have air around to absorb the water and nutrients. The telltale sign for this is that the leaves on some of your evergreens, like rhododendrons and azaleas and pieris, will droop and hang downward, and they really won't fall off. One of the things you'll notice is it almost looks like this plant is in a drought situation. So many of us might go out in the garden, water it, and we're just adding to more of the problem that the plant's experiencing. So those stay hanging downward like you see right here on the pieris for maybe 1 to 3 months. The only thing you can do is replant your plants or loosen up the soil for all your new plantings.
She does such a good job on this letter.
We pay real close attention to getting rid of all of the old debris on peonies, because botrytis is a disease that holds over from year after year, and you can see the gray mold or botrytis right here on the old bud. And it was interesting, we found it even more evident on some of the early blooming peonies. And these are peonies that come up out of the ground earlier in the spring and that are more subject to freeze and frost damage, and then the botrytis sets in. So all you have to do is just really try to keep all that old foliage off your plants every year. One of the things when dealing with diseases, they need to be prevented as opposed to insects which can be cured. And with all the rain we had almost every day, we could not come out and apply a preventative fungicide. And so what happened was, with the iris, is we have all these leaf spots. And so excessive rain and rain over a long period of time and not a lot of sun to dry out the foliage will lead to this problem. The other thing that we noticed, some of the newer varieties that have been hybridized for fragrance and giant flowers and neat colors may not have the disease resistance that I'm going to show you in a minute on some of the old-fashioned tall-bearded iris. Hybridizing and creating new iris varieties like these with the giant flowers and lots of fragrance really adds a lot to our garden. But one of the things that you might notice, the old-fashioned or antique iris right here in front of me has very little or no disease problems. And these are maybe 100 years old or older. You can pretty much dig them, throw them on the ground, they'll root, they'll flower, they'll come back year after year. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
For more garden tips, go to the In the Garden website at inthegardenradio.com.